All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 25th, 2025 East Lansing Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Bartley, would you please take roll?
Yes, I will. Commissioner Chapin.
Present.
Commissioner Denault.
Here.
Commissioner Hendricks. Commissioner Lapine. Commissioner Overbey.
Here.
Commissioner Putz.
Here.
Commissioner Sobolewski.
Here.
Vice Chair Wagner.
Here.
And Chair Sullivan.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Putz, seconded by Commissioner Denault. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda approved. Next up is approval of the minutes, and there's two Planning Commission meetings here, so June 11th, 2025 and June 16th, 2025 Planning Commission meetings. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Overbey,
Second.
seconded by Vice Chair Wagner. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. That takes us on to item number 2, committee reports. Mr. Bartley?
Thank you. Our Age-Friendly Communities Committee, for your representative is Commissioner Chapin. We'll be meeting tomorrow. The committee continues to update its work plan, which I expect will likely complete its work in July. And then, as we discussed last time, we will provide that to this group as an informational item before it goes to the council to be adopted. Commissioner Chapin, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Nope, we haven't had a meeting in a while, so that's tomorrow we meet.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
As far as the comprehensive plan update coordinating committee goes, for which we have 3 representatives on this commission, there has been no meeting recently. We're going to be reviewing the comprehensive plan this evening, and then I would expect the comprehensive plan committee will get sort of brought back into the loop before we have our planning commission public hearing, which we'll also be discussing this evening. And I don't know if any of the commissioners who are representing wanted to add anything about that. Okay. And then finally, the Green Code Study Committee. We have 4 representatives on the commission on that committee. That hasn't met for a few weeks. The recommendations are going to council from Department of Public Works sometime soon regarding stormwater mitigation recommendations of the committee. We're hoping to start scheduling those meetings potentially as soon as tomorrow. Right now, tentatively looking at bi-weekly meetings starting on July 8th on Tuesdays. I'm going to work that with our committee chair to make sure, but it will be sending out, should be sending out invitations tomorrow for those meetings. So, and that's all I have to report from committees.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners? All right, moving right along. Tonight takes us on to item 3, staff reports. Mr. Bartley?
Thank you. Mostly my staff report is to say that we have a new intern, Sonia Koenig, who started last week. She's a social and political theory, political relations. Can't really name the major from Michigan State, but she's currently in her senior year and will be finishing in December. We have her until then and maybe beyond that if possible. So we're very happy to have her join us. And I know the Green Code Study Committees will be meeting her at some point soon. I think we'll probably drop a planning commission case on her at some point too. So I'm sure you guys will see her as well. But we'll introduce you to her before too long. I just wanted to update you too on some actions by City Council. City Council met last week. As you know, you had your special meeting last Monday, the 16th, to have another public hearing for Meyer, the proposed gas station, 100 West Lake Lansing. City Council had their own public hearing for that the next night. There were several comments. They did not make any sort of decision. We expect them to see it again in July. There was also a public hearing on Ordinance 1546, which is the amendment to the zoning ordinance proposed by your council liaison, Mark Meadows, to change the requirements for a diverse housing requirement in downtown. This body recommended approval of that ordinance on a 4-to-1 basis. There was a public hearing. We didn't receive any comments at the City Council. So although we did receive public comment from an attorney for a local developer suggesting additional changes to that section of the ordinance. So we may see another ordinance round coming at you to change that requirement in specific. The council denied a request from 213 Ann. That was a field house expansion that you've seen several times. So that has been denied. We don't know if the applicant is going to appeal that or come back with something different, but the council did approve a site plan request at 601 Abbott, the 3-story condo building about a block and a half away from here. And so that's going to go through the process as well. I think that's all we had on that agenda last week, so just wanted to update you with that. That's on my staff report.
Commissioner Overbey.
I have a question, Landon, on the field house proposal that the council denied. What was their reasoning and their thinking? Did they articulate that?
It seemed to be a concern about essentially returning the number of seats back to what it was. They felt that many seats for alcohol would be too much. There was a discussion of undue concentration of alcohol uses in downtown, and it felt like that would be adding to it. So, and I don't know if Alicia, you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
Anything
good
else?
question. And then remind me what happened with the Pizza Wallets application. Council previously approved that at a prior meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's been approved.
Great.
So that restaurant will probably be moving forward fairly quickly. Actually, they've already been through the permitting process and are close to being finished with that.
Oh, okay, so they should start construction soon, potentially. Great. Any other questions for city staff? Thank you for getting the door. All right, seeing none, that takes us on to item number 4, commissioner announcements, and also, as is typical, this is your time to disclose any conflicts of interest for items on tonight's agenda. The only thing I want to say in the front end is I watched the meeting, I know it wasn't last week, but a couple weeks ago that you guys had. I thought it was run really well by the vice chair, so appreciate him stepping in, and it was a good conversation, so appreciated you guys doing even better without me here. So thanks, guys. So any other commissioner announcements or disclosures of conflicts of interest? All right. Takes us on to item number 5, communications from citizens. First up is item 5.1, written communications. There is a handful of written communications for item 7.2, the rezoning request that's on tonight's agenda. Aside from that, I didn't see anything else. So that takes us on to item 5.2, verbal from the audience. This is your time to come forward and address the Planning Commission on anything on or off tonight's agenda. We have no public hearing, so there will be no conversations at that point from the audience. But if you do want to address the Planning Commission, now is your time. I will start off by reading the cards that I have up here in front of me. So first up is Joe David from the Landshark application that's on tonight's agenda. Would you like to address the Planning Commission, or just?
Would you, I am the applicant.
Yep.
Would you like me to
Oh,
wait until?
great, thank you.
Would you like me to wait until my?
If you want to do your comments now, you can, or you can give a couple comments when we're done hearing the update from city staff when your item is up on the agenda.
Yeah, I can give a brief
Okay.
set of comments now. In today's agenda, you'll see a modified application from 270 occupancy to 240 occupancy. That's due to learning more about the process and just getting to code. And basically the sign off was we can do 240 occupancy as we stand today. And so we're asking for that. We're still going to explore widening the door space, the main door space, to give more egress safety. That's still in the works. The expansion into 357 square feet of more operating space may be delayed, just so we have time to get through special use and be ready for the Michigan State school year.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Might be questions later on when your item's up, but appreciate that update. Next up is Eric Rosencrans. Did I get that right?
Rosecrans, yes. Hi, I'm Eric Rosecrans from Martin Commercial Properties. I'm here representing the owners of 1425 and 1427 West Saginaw, which is here under 7.2 tonight. My preference would be to talk to you with the plan up if possible. So if I could speak when we go through that, I'd prefer to. I won't be long. I don't have a lot to say, but I think it's just helpful if I can talk to the plan.
That's fine.
Is
Yeah,
that
we can tee you up after
Okay,
city staff
okay.
gives their update, and then we'll let you take questions from
Okay,
commissioners at
thank
that time. All right, next up is Diane Wing.
Hello, my name is Diane Wing. I live at 1024 Huntington Road in the Chesterfield Hills Historic District. Chesterfield Hills is just southeast of the parcel that is in question tonight under Ordinance 1548. I spoke at the public hearing on May 28th. I and myself, I believe there were 7 or 8 other speakers from the Glencairn neighborhood, also some very close-in neighbors to the Touraine West Grand River parcel. Everyone who spoke at the public hearing, with the exception of Mr. Rosecrans, was opposed to the rezoning of this parcel, and I'm here to just reiterate that again. I can't speak for I remain opposed to this rezoning. At the point in time that the development was created in 2004, the council at that time imposed restrictions on that parcel. I would hope those restrictions are part of the staff report or part of the packet that you have in front of you to understand the work and the concern from the community that went into that parcel 21 years ago. This particular proposal that's in front of you tonight is scope creep. It's commercial creep. It's trying to now expand that shopping development, the retail development around the corner, even closer now to the residential neighborhood that abuts it. It's an inappropriate use for that particular parcel. We hear a lot from the community that the thing that we're missing most in the city of East Lansing is affordable housing. That particular parcel is zoned residential. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the developers were able to come up with a small type of townhouse development that could support single families in that particular parcel in the Glencairn neighborhood? It was my understanding that either the developer or the owner of the parcel was to meet with the Glencairn Neighborhood Association, or at least concerned citizens around that area. I don't live in the Glencairn neighborhood. I'm not sure whether that happened or not, but I broached that question as to whether the meeting actually happened with the concerned neighbors. I will also state that the parcel right now is unkempt. While I don't believe the grass is tall enough to qualify for any type of citation from PACE, I don't believe it's tall enough. It's certainly unkempt. It would be wonderful if the owner or the developer could spend just a little bit more time and care in keeping such a visible parcel, especially one that's right next to a neighborhood, in a little bit better shape. So I thank you all very much for your consideration on this. I hope that you will oppose this particular rezoning of this parcel for all of the reasons that you've read and heard previously. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to step forward? Now's your time. Okay, seeing none, is there anyone online in the queue?
How many callers?
All right. At this point, we will move on to, as we have no public hearings for tonight, we'll move on to item number 7, unfinished business. First up is 7.1, a request from Joe David for approval of a special use permit located at 101 East Grand River Avenue. The applicant request is to expand the bar and dining area with alcohol service. The property is zoned B3, City Center Commercial. Ms. Wrighton?
Good evening, Alicia Wrighton, Planning Department. You did have a public hearing at your last regular meeting, and the applicant was applying for an increase in occupancy of 270. The applicant had actually been operating under a 270 occupancy from a previous understood building and plan reviewer and fire marshal approval from 2022. Upon finding that they were intending to do an expansion is when we determined that they had not actually received a special use permit at that time, so he returned for that. Since the last meeting, staff has met with the building department and several of the members from the building department, and it was determined that the structure itself doesn't have the capacity for the water closets to support the 270 occupancy, but with the existing structure, the existing water closets, the existing doors, it does meet the building code requirements for 240. So the applicant has reduced their request to 240 and have, on their own volition, as he mentioned in comment, that they may explore the wider entrance door, but they will postpone the 357 square foot expansion into the storage area until a future time, so he can get through this special use process and be ready before the students come back. I can take any questions.
Before any questions, just want to note Commissioner Hendricks arrived at 7:15 for the minutes. Is there any questions for city staff?
Maybe I just want to
Commissioner
double
Chapin?
check on the number. The current capacity is, just want to confirm this.
So they've been operating under 270 from an administrative approval from 2022.
Okay,
The building code allows for 240,
okay. So this is a reduction,
correct?
okay? Unlike, I'm kind of connecting to the comments from the city council about the field house. Commissioner Overbey asked a good question. So this is a reduction in seating for a retail establishment that serves alcoholic beverages, correct?
Technically, yes. However, they were never through the special use process to obtain that 270.
Okay,
So they were at a 212 occupancy because they existed prior to special use process. In 2022, the fire marshal and plan reviewer gave approval for an occupancy of 270
Okay.
through the building department's avenue, never sent them through special use.
okay.
So the special use is for the alcohol service and is subject to the building code, which the building code only allows for an occupancy of 240.
40. Okay, so we're currently operating at 240 or 212?
270.
Okay.
270.
That's, okay.
So they were approved administratively for
Okay.
270,
Okay.
which was an increase from 212 before.
Okay, I got it.
They
Now
never
we're looking
came
to
through
sort of
special use.
Make sure it's legit.
My fellow commissioners probably didn't need that clarification, but I did. Thank you very much. Okay, all right.
As much clarification as possible
All
is
right.
what I prefer. Okay. Commissioner Overby?
So the 270 that was previously approved, I'm confused, was that an error, or was that just a different process from the planning commission? How did that happen?
It didn't come to the planning commission, it was done administratively, and I'm not familiar with the manner in which they approved that occupancy.
And there could be all kinds of reasons. I mean, it could have been a policy approach, or it could have been a different ordinance at the time. But
Right.
we just, according to current ordinance, we couldn't approve it without going through the special use process. So that's what we're here tonight.
So they're looking for 240. Will they come back at some later date and want to go to the 270?
Perhaps, yeah, but they want to get through the process
So
at the
we'll get
240 now.
another shot at this when they come back.
Possible.
As is anyone's right, you know?
Yes, yes.
Any questions down here? In the spirit of clarifying things, I'm going to ask a couple questions about what is the connection with the door and the capacity. So the door is something that was caught during this round of review, and it's not wide enough to support the capacity that's being proposed. Is that correct?
At 270,
Okay, at 270, but at 240, does the
it
door-
doesn't need to be changed.
Doesn't
He's-
make any, but they're
he's just
future-proofing
choosing
it by adding
to
it.
consider
Okay.
doing it on his own. But it's a combination of the door expansion and the water closet addition to meet the 270.
Are they doing a water
They're not
closet?
doing the water
Okay, they're not doing that
closets.
yet. That would be
That
part
would
of a
be a-
potential phase two. So that was my second question, is all that's before us tonight is the door and the capacity.
And actually, you don't
increase.
have to, the door is just him on his own volition. That has nothing to do with the code requirements. The
Got
code,
it. So we're just considering the capacity.
240.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying. And, I guess in theory, if we were not to approve this, in a weird way, would they revert to 270? Or is that an open
212.
question?
Good question.
it would be 212?
212, okay, be
Because
212.
Technically, right now, their land use rights for the special use would be for 212.
Okay.
They've been operating under administrative approval that we are speculating on at 270.
Okay,
So they're requesting 240.
Makes sense. Thanks for the clarifications. It's helpful for me. Any questions for city staff?
You don't need to interject.
Seeing none. Would you like to come forward and add any additional comments or just take questions? Okay.
Happy to take any questions. I think you've asked all the questions that I would otherwise answer. The one that I'll, with point of clarity, the expansion into 357 storage area is just for operating safety purposes. We were just doing it to get more space. The water closets was a new topic for us. In order for us to ever come back and get more than 240, it would be a significant investment in Landshark. If you've been there, you'll understand that the space that the rest bathrooms are in would need a complete blowout and expansion into the bar space. So it isn't something I could just flip the switch on and just say I'd like 270. It would take a significant investment into the 6 digits. So I just wanted to point that out. So what I'm here today is to rectify the process and ask for 240.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Is there a motion?
Sure.
If you need it, it's on page 11.
I move to recommend approval to City Council, a request from Joe David for approval of a special use permit located at 101 East Grand River Avenue, the Landshark. The applicant request is to expand the bar and dining area with alcohol service. This approval includes alcohol service and increased patron capacity not to exceed 240 persons for the following reasons. Number one, the proposed development does meet all applicable ordinance requirements. Number two, the proposal does meet the standards of review identified in sections 50-38 of the Code of Ordinances. And number three, the proposed use of the property is compatible with surrounding land uses and will not adversely impact the use and enjoyment of adjacent properties. Those are the three reasons plus the...
Four.
I'm
There's
sorry, 4?
Any additional reasons, and then
Oh, do we have an additional reason?
Yes.
it's just you could say the 10 listed in the staff report.
And, I'm sorry, what was listed in the staff report?
These ones.
Am I looking at the wrong?
Yeah, scroll down real quick. See where it says any additional reasons, and then all of those other ones listed.
Oh, okay,
right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I was going to say, with the following conditions, the following 10 conditions added, as listed in the staff report.
Yes.
Great. Well said. Is there a second? Moved by Vice Chair Wagner.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Chapin. All right, discussion? Okay, yeah, I think he's going about it the right way. He's trying to rectify
Yes.
and a situation that was discovered by city staff. All that's before us is the capacity, right sizing, with the potential of a phase 2 down the line. So with that, I'm in support of the proposal. So, any additional comments? Yep.
I just want to thank you for recognizing that you needed to have a certain capacity. You're losing part of your capacity, and to rectify this with the city codes, and I thank you for doing that. I will support it also.
I second your comments there. Yep.
Oh, you second his comments, but you don't
Yeah,
second
I
my
did-
comments.
No, kind of both of them. I sort of lean that way, kind of both of them. I think, we're on the right. I think the fact that you're trying to address a problem is meaningful. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Okay. Well said. Okay. Seeing no additional comments, let's take a vote. All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Motion carries. This item is on to a to-be-determined city council meeting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. Okay, that takes us on to item 7.2, consideration of ordinance 1548, a proposed rezoning of a vacant parcel at the northwest corner of Tarrain and West Grand River from R1 low-density single-family residential to B2 retail sales business. Mr. Bartley?
Yes, thank you. Just pulling up the aerial map on the screen here. So, Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, this is a rezoning request for this parcel at the corner of Terrain and West Grand River. This is just east of the eastern boundary of the city, close to the intersection of Saginaw and Grand River and Coolidge. This property is currently zoned R1, and which is a residential zone district, a low-density single-family residential district. And the applicant is seeking to rezone the property to B2 retail sales business to match the zoning of the other parcel to the north and west that is also owned by the applicant. The intent would be to combine the parcels and to construct a parking lot. However, and there was a conceptual plan that we discussed in some detail last time, and it seemed pretty clear that the Planning Commission and neighbors would like to see that plan. So the applicant has provided this conceptual plan that I'm pulling up on the screen. I'll zoom in a little bit. Of 20 total spaces to be added to this parking area. That said, and the reason I want to disclaim this and say it is a conceptual plan and it should be used for discussion only is because although this is the applicant's intent is to construct a parking lot, and I know that they would like to state that on the record tonight, and that is their intent. If you were to rezone this parcel or recommend approval of rezoning this parcel and the City Council adopted that rezoning, the parcel would then be zoned B2, and should the applicant relinquish control or transfer to somebody else, that future landowner could also apply for something different than a parking lot that would be allowed by B2. So that's sort of the tough part, I think, for the Planning Commission in this particular instance and the City Council and the neighbors to say maybe the Planning Commission or City Council, and certainly the neighbors have expressed their concerns about this rezoning. Maybe somebody would find the parking lot would be just fine, but a building of some sort would not be. This is why it's a difficult decision, because you need to consider that certainly the applicant wants to and has proposed and has every intent to construct a parking lot like that shown on the screen. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that. If you rezone this parcel or recommended approval of rezoning this parcel, other potential land uses could be contemplated in the future. There is comprehensive plan support for this rezoning. The previous comprehensive plan future land use map shows this as an M1 mixed use district. I'm going to pull that up real quick just to show that on the screen. In the future land use map, the future land use is intended as a guide and not necessarily a legally binding document. The zoning ordinance is. However, the designation as mixed use here, in addition to the parcels to the north and west, is from the future land use map and saying essentially at the time of adoption in 2018, the community city council that adopted this would have said, this is what we want the future land use of this parcel to be, is mixed use, which would support this parking lot as well and the B2 zoning. So I guess consider that. You want to consider the neighbors' concerns. You want to consider the applicant's intent to construct a parking lot in line with what they've shown as their conceptual plan. If this is to be rezoned to B2, the applicant would have to return to you to request approval, site plan approval, which would go to you and the city council, which would have a public hearing for that parking lot. So if rezoned, a parking lot would not be able to be constructed by right without any public process. But other uses potentially could be. Actually, there are very few uses in the B2 that could be constructed without site plan review. But my overall point is that the request is to rezone to B2, not to construct a parking lot. That, if approved, that request would come later. Okay. So, can I answer any questions about anything that I've said so far? And although, as I mentioned, and the applicant mentioned earlier that they are here and happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Bartley?
Yes.
Commissioner Overbey? And then
Landon, if I understand correctly, if this rezoning occurs, then it's really up to the owners of the property what happens to this land.
Well, it's up to the owners of what they want to propose.
Yes.
You know, there is a public process, and the planning commission and city council steps to approve anything, essentially any land use that would be proposed.
Right.
But as far as what that is, I mean, yes, that's the applicant's right to propose whatever they want. In this case, their intent is to propose a
Yes.
parking lot.
Thank you.
Oh, Vice Chair?
Could we put a restriction on saying that we would move to have this rezoning for the purposes of a parking lot, and if something else were, like for any other use, they would have to come back to us?
No. You can, there is a conditional rezoning process that, but the applicant would need to voluntarily apply for a conditional rezoning and offer the conditions. That's certainly within their rights to do, especially if they were to be denied for this parking, or for this, excuse me, for this rezoning with the intent of parking. I tend to advise against applying for a conditional rezoning if you don't need to. They tend to be an administrative burden and a burden on the applicant and on the citizens in general. You have essentially a condition that rides with the property for many years and doesn't always match changing community priorities, I would say. So I advised the applicant and said, as staff, I don't suggest that you should bring a conditional rezoning at this time request. I think they might be open to that if that were the case, and certainly if that gets denied. But as far as if it's not a conditional rezoning request, the Planning Commission and the City Council cannot put conditions on a rezoning.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Good question. Any other questions down there? Commissioner Denault?
And maybe I just missed it in the packet, but do we have any information about the debate that centered on this property? Especially, it sounded like one of the folks who spoke during the public comments had some insight as to the history of this parcel. Do we have that in our packet? Do we know anything about that?
No, we didn't include the background. We certainly can dig into that and provide that to the Planning Commission if you feel that it's necessary to make the rezoning determination. Because my understanding was that the, I guess, controversy about the building or its elements wasn't about the zoning in specific, but rather about the proposal and what was proposed for the property, the parking, the buildings, et cetera, the uses. But not the zoning in particular. We would bring that sort of history to you for consideration during a site plan review, but not for the rezoning.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Landon? Seeing none? Okay, ready for the applicant?
Okay, thank you. I think Landon covered it very well, but that's what we want. That's all we want. So Landon and I have had discussions about the best way to go about it, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think it's important to understand what and I know that the residents don't agree with me, but I'm really trying, this owner is really trying to come up with something that works. We're in a post-COVID environment for office space leasing. It's very challenging, it's very competitive, and we have lost deals at this building with people to come to East Lansing because the parking is tight. And for those of you that remember when the building was full in the early teens, the 2000 teens, I should say that for your benefit, they were parking in the residential streets. People were, they're like water. They're going to find a place to park, and that had to be policed, which the owner did and the city did. But we are looking at this parking not for the retail part of this, but for the office part. And our goal is to put conditions in leases where employees park in this lot. So that's our goal. I understand if it's zoned the way that is being requested, that this owner could do whatever, but that's not the intention. Our intention is that, and that's it. That's all they want. And how to best figure that out, we can go down that road. But I think some of the concerns with the residents, and I fully, wholeheartedly understand, but what we tried to do is lay out a plan that keeps, you can see in this layover, the green, the trees and shrubs and things that are there, the bulk of that stays. And this is even before we go through the planning commission process of determining what actually has to be done there. So one of the comments was by one of the residents is that they liked the fact that that was a green cap to the neighborhood. We're trying to keep that, and we will do everything we can to keep that, and I think that plan shows our willingness to try to go down that road. The access, we're not asking for access off terrain or Grand River. I know there's been comments about how this would create more traffic. This traffic will come and go into this property from as you can see, from, most of you probably know Lou and Harry's, from Lou and Harry's side. And so there's not going to be any more traffic than what's already there or already being used in that center, both from an office or a retail standpoint. I don't think this is the kind of property that's going to create more noise, more litter, and is going to be less safe than what it already is. But I think one of the things that we're trying to do is, as we look in the future, that's what we want, is that parking, and that's it. So whatever we can do to try to make that work, we're willing to sit down and go through that. And I was asked about meeting with the residents. We put some thought into it and talked to a lot of people about doing it. We have not done that yet. I think the residents made their points clear at the last public commission meeting, or planning commission meeting. And we are planning to do that after this and going through and get into more detail. But that's it. That's what we want. That's what we'd like to do to help us be competitive in the office leasing market and try to bring these businesses into East Lansing.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'm curious. I heard you say we. Is he the owner?
No, the owner is a gentleman that lives in Mount Pleasant.
Who is that?
His name is Bill Martin.
Okay.
It's West Saginaw Saginaw Street Investments is the.
He owns the property?
Mhm.
Who owns the property that Lou and Harry's is on?
Same.
Same?
Same.
Okay.
And they own this property in question also. They
Okay.
own the whole.
And he developed it himself?
No, it was developed by, if you all remember when it was the Albert Pick, and then it was developed by Strathmore Development back whenever. Mr. Martin picked it up through default foreclosure from Strathmore. How long's it been, Mike? 15 years ago, maybe?
Okay. Do you live in East Lansing?
No, I work in East Lansing.
Okay. Because lots of neighbors, and I was just wondering, it sounds like the owner really wants to be a good neighbor, and you're deciding whether or not you meet with the neighbors. I just wondered why the owner wouldn't actually come to the meeting.
Well, we can have the owner come to that meeting. But I know this owner very well. I've worked with him the entire time that he has owned the property. I know how he feels, and he has told me in no uncertain terms that that's what they want. They don't want anything else. And whatever we have to do to get that and please the neighbors as best we can to try to come up with something that works for everybody is what he wants. I know full well I can speak for him. I know I can. But if it's important to have him here, he will come down to a meeting like that.
Okay. That's it.
Yep, thank you. Commissioner Overbey.
So help me understand the parking circumstance. I assume that at each phase of this development, that an assessment was made of they need X amount of parking. And at some point, that was not correct, it seems. So help me understand, how did we end up in a circumstance, and I assume that the city approved this development at each step and approved X amount of parking. So I don't understand why there isn't adequate parking in the existing structure.
I'll give you the best judgment I can. In all my years of doing this, I run into this all the time. When a developer comes to me and wants to build an office building and wants my opinion. One of the first 4 or 5 questions that I ask is, what's your parking ratio? And in East Lansing, back at the time that this was done, the parking ratio was inadequate. It was, they had a parking, and I don't remember what it was back then, one space, one for every, or 3 spaces for every 1,000, 3.5 spaces for every 1,000. But in reality, that worked to get your project through. But when people were doing more and less space, more people were coming in, and it crowded out office buildings. And it happens in a lot of different places that you see now. Now, COVID has brought a new element in for that because people are working from home, and so not as many have been in the office. But that work from home, the work from home strategies that companies are employing right now is starting to shift back, and more people are coming in. They may not be coming in 5 days a week, but my guess is this is going to settle into the 3 to 4 days a week where everybody's going to be there. And so I can't speak to what it was back then other than that over time, it's not just East Lansing, it's a lot of jurisdictions around here and around the country from what I've seen in the work I do nationally, is that parking, to get a project approved, as long as you met that minimum, that's what developers would do, and it would get them in trouble because of occupancy. So,
Thank you.
long-winded answer, but hopefully it helped.
Can you remind us what the parking ratio is now and what it would be once this project is complete?
Well, right now, we're at 3.9 per thousand, and what you'd like to see in any office building is a minimum of 1.4 per thousand, but 5 per thousand is preferred. It gives you cushion to allow for, some businesses may come in and they may lease 5,000 square feet and have 4 people. But some businesses may come in and rent 5,000 square feet and have 20 people. You just don't know what's going to happen. But this would put us at a level, it'd put us just under 5 per thousand if we could get these spaces here.
A question on that, does the 3.9, Eric, include if I park in front of Lou and Harry's? Is that part of the 3.9?
No, the office building is looked at separately. We look at it separately because someone parking if they're parking in the front part and around the corner where Big B is and the employment shop, they're not going to the office building. So what our plan is to have this space for permanent office people that are in. So an employee who might come in at 8 and leave at 5 or whatever, that's what we would like to put there. Now controlling that could be somewhat difficult, but we can put it in leases that they park in that area. So, but would somebody from Lou and Harry's park in there? My guess is if there was no spaces in front of Lou and Harry's, they might. I guess we just have to monitor that and figure out the best way to do it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Any remaining questions? Commissioner Denault?
The office building, how many folks work there currently, and how many could be accommodated in the office space that's there?
Well, right now, there's half the building is vacant, so you've got 9,000 square feet, a little over 9,000 square feet that's vacant. So at 5 per thousand, that's 45 people that could come in and work there. Currently, right now, there are 2 firms. One is a law firm, and they are very active. They're there all the time with their cars. And then Fifth Third Bank is there, which is an active, ongoing banking operation. I don't have the exact numbers of how many they have, but I know when you go over there, there's parking available because we have half the building vacant. But it's clear that there's a lot of spaces or there's not a lot of spaces that are available with half the building vacant. And I will say one other thing that sort of handicapped this owner is the developer of the project originally gave a Fifth Third as an inducement to rent their reserved spaces. I think they've got, 8 or 9 spaces that are reserved that are just for them and their customers. So we've got that we're dealing with also.
And could that potentially change?
Well, their lease is up in 20 years. So they have, it's a contractual obligation that they have to have those spaces. So we have attempted to do things, and they have to have them. They're not going to, you know, they're looking, and I understand, they're paying a good rate, and they wanted those things when they did the deal, and that the owner at that time agreed to them. So, that answer it for you? Are you,
It did.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else? I'm
No,
here.
I think we're good for now. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion in order? If anyone's looking for the page, it's page 7.
I'll make a motion just to move the conversation along. I'll make it in a positive, which I think is
Okay.
the best way to do this. I move to recommend approval by the City Council of the request from Saginaw Investments LLC to amend the zoning use district map of Chapter 50, zoning, parenthetically, of the Code of Ordinance to rezone one vacant, unaddressed parcel with an area of 0.41 acres and parcel number 33-20-01-12-309-007 from R1, low-density, single-family residential district, parenthetically, to B2, retail sales business, parenthetically, for the following reasons. The rezoning is consistent with the policies and uses proposed for that area in the city's comprehensive land use plan. The uses allowed under the proposed rezoning would be compatible with other zones and uses in the surrounding area. Public service 3, public services and facilities would not be significantly adversely impacted by a development or use allowed under the requested rezoning, and for the uses proposed by the proposed rezoning would be equally or better suited to the area than uses allowed under the current zoning of the land.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Chapin. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Overbey. Discussion? Give you the first crack at it since you made the motion.
Well, you know, I came into the meeting tonight thinking I've been going first too much. So I was going to, Vice Chair
You can defer.
made a comment that resonated with me about let's kind of, so, no, I think this is a tough one for me, for a variety of different reasons, but I'd like to hear what my fellow commissioners are saying to help me solidify my decision.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Denault?
I think I'm really torn with this as well. Full disclosure, I'm on the Glencairn Neighborhood Council. I live less than half a mile from this parcel in question. I walk through this parking lot with my dog to cut back through into the neighborhood quite often, actually. So I think I think for personal reasons, right, I would be in opposition, but I really appreciated staff's reminder or reassurances that we will always get to review what goes here, whether it's a parking lot, which we would have to approve again after rezoning, or whether that's some kind of other B2 use. So we would see this again, and we would retain the authority to be able to approve or disapprove. I personally don't think a parking lot is a great use of this space, but I think I would be interested to see what other B2 uses the neighborhood might see as an amenity instead of just a parking lot, right? I think some of us are still really upset at the loss of the Quality Dairy at Michigan and Harrison, right? To have a neighborhood ice cream shop again, for instance. that would be amazing, right? But, so I think I'm really torn between the rezoning request and us getting a chance to see this again, but also, my personal place in the neighborhood, and the way that I interact with this space now. I would probably be against the proposal.
Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Overbey?
I will confess that I really struggled with this proposal. I see that the developer and the owners have tried to make some changes that would accommodate concerns from the neighborhood. But I ultimately come down on the side of the neighborhood in that this will make a change. It will be a permanent change. And it has the potential to affect the neighborhood and future use of this property. And for those reasons, I'm going to oppose this.
Chuck, I agree with your reasoning, and I think that I'm nervous about changing this to a B2 we have a commitment here to make it a parking lot, but rezoning district, or parcels is kind of a big deal in my opinion. And, just to do it, we've had sort of similar issues in the past where the applicant has come and wanted to rezone a parcel with an idea, but nothing, concrete plan, and we said no then. So anyway.
What happens tomorrow is your question.
Right.
Yeah, I think
sorry.
No, you go.
Yep. Commissioner Sobolewski and then Denault.
Certainly not against development or even the green zones that were talked about to protect that, but when you walk by it now, the sidewalk is just, it looks like it hasn't been touched in 10 years, and if that's a reflection on what it'll be 10 years from now with a parking lot there, it seems like the zoning and the development and all the effort that went into the initial building and development seems like it was adequate. It just, besides one current leasee coming to talk about it, I don't think there's a real strong business case for changing the zoning. And it is nice to have that break between the craziness of that intersection.
Commissioner Denault?
Yeah, I think I just want to echo comments from my fellow commissioners about recognizing what the neighborhood and the neighbors have stated in their comments, right, their opposition to this, and that I think is a really powerful statement as well. And I will say, I appreciate that the applicant will in the future, they say, plan to meet with the Glencairn Neighborhood Association. They have not. I'm on the council, and we haven't had a request come in yet. And I think it would have been at least a helpful gesture of being a good neighbor to have that offer before coming back for the final vote, right? Even if it meant pushing the final vote on this, right? Delaying this meeting back to make time to meet with neighbors. I think that is really telling about how the developer feels about the neighbors and the neighborhood and their commitment to be a good neighbor. So it does not reflect very positively.
Okay.
Commissioner Chapin. So I didn't go first this time. I want my fellow commissioners to notice that. So I appreciated the comments. I came in tonight favoring the R1 low-density residential. I think that's makes sense. I've driven by that corner now, taken a look at it, and thought long and hard about this. So I think that's where my vote will land tonight. Eric mentioned the Albert Pick Motel. I remember when that was built, and I've seen that property take a lot of different shape and mean different things to the community over time, and I think that will continue. I just think, low-density, single-family residential, affordable housing, I think we have to really be sensitive to that. And position from us that suggests that we're not considering affordable housing, I think it's not something that I want to land on the other side of. The other thing is, I'm struck by Landon's comments about it connects to the comprehensive plan. I think there's a good possibility this will be overturned by the city council if there is some language in the comprehensive plan that suggests this should be in, a different zone, or it should be zoned differently. But I favor the residents. I think they make a compelling case. Driven by that corner, I think it's best to keep it as is.
Thank you for your comments. I'll just cap off with mine. I think a lot of people are going to echo what I was going to say. I certainly sympathize with the business owner there. I think that the comments about the office space are legitimate. I do think their intentions are clear, but those hypotheticals about future use for the site are lingering. I think there's a needle that could be threaded with this space, and I don't think it's quite hit the mark yet. I think there could have been some sort of commitment and conversations with the neighborhood to secure a pocket park or something that's there, and there's better screening for the parking lot, more of a natural barrier. I really like the suggestion that Diane made about townhomes with affordable housing or any other use for housing there. I think you could create some sort of site where you have the parking behind it, potentially with townhomes there and a little bit of greenery that's left. But ultimately, I just don't think we're at that point yet. And with lack of communication with the neighborhood, I think there's kind of a dichotomy of what's being proposed and then what's the perception of what's being proposed. I think we understand that now. I don't think there's a traffic impact with no curb cuts on the side street there on Grand River and really having only access through the main parking lot. But yeah, I'd like to see a different kind of development there potentially. I'm not wedded to R1 necessarily. I think there could be a more appropriate use, but I just don't think this is hit the mark yet. And I think of all the things that have come before Planning Commission in the, X amount of years I've been here, I've only seen unanimous opposition a handful of times, and unfortunately that's what we have before us today. So I'll be voting in opposition. So.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I just wanted to make the point, the discussion about townhomes. Right now in the R1 district, that's not allowed. It would require a zone change for multifamily residential.
Yeah, that was my comment, that I'm not wedded to
Okay.
the R1 and that.
But I just wanted to make that point that
That's fair. That's good.
Planning Commission likes townhomes,
Yep.
that's great, but we would need to see a rezoning for that. If that was
Separate
the intent.
application, yep.
Correct.
Okay. We do a roll call vote then?
All right, so the motion on the table was a recommendation to approve the rezoning request made by Chapin and seconded by Overbey. So a yes vote is to approve and a no vote is to not approve. Commissioner Chapin, how do you vote?
No.
Commissioner Denault?
No.
Commissioner Hendricks?
No.
Commissioner Overbey?
No.
Commissioner Putz?
No.
Commissioner Sebeleski?
No.
Vice Chair Wagner?
No.
And Chair Sullivan?
Nope.
The nays have it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bartley. This item will be on to City Council at a to-be-determined City Council meeting with a recommendation against approval from the Planning Commission. Okay, thanks for the discussion, everyone. That takes us on to item 7.3, consideration of draft comprehensive plan update document and scheduling a Planning Commission public hearing. Mr. Bartley?
Thank you. So the comprehensive plan has been in process for some time now, since early 2024, maybe even late 2023. And I know this body has seen it several times in various forms. The most recent we distributed last time at our meeting on June 11th. The draft plan and also several pages of comments that we had received from the public comment review period. So tonight, my intent was not to sort of go through all the comments or the plan necessarily, although I'm happy to if you'd like, but rather to have a discussion as to any specific comments that you saw or have comments of your own where you'd like to modify the draft plan before you see it again. And my intent would be to have you see it again in 2 weeks on July 9. So that would be the sort of first action, is to consider the plan, consider the comments, and maybe discuss the plan and determine how we want to change it, and then direct me to do so. Probably don't need a motion for that unless we're seeing someone say, hey, I want to see this change, and somebody else says no. Then we should have more discussion and maybe have a formal motion. Otherwise, typically you can just say, I think that you should do this, and I can make those changes. So the intent would be to have this come back to you with those changes on July 9th. We're going to do our best to make that work, and if it doesn't, well, we're going to make that work. Because what we'd like to do then is also the second thing I'd like you to do tonight would be to schedule your public hearing. I'd like for you to schedule that public hearing on July 23rd, which is 2 meetings from now. And the reason for that date is that the City Council meets twice in the summer, essentially, starting now. So they have a July meeting on July 15th. They have an August meeting on August 12th. And then don't meet again until September. So normally they meet 2 or 3 times a month, and now we're looking at just that once. So the timing is a little bit of an issue, and that's why I'm sort of proposing this calendar. If you were to schedule that meeting tonight, the public hearing for July 23rd, then the City Council will have seen the plan, made comments on it the week before on the 15th. You would then have your public hearing the following week on the 23rd. The other thing, and I guess could potentially vote, the question will be that we hope to also have answered by City Council on July 15th. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act and Planning Enabling Act allows for the Planning Commission's vote to approve a comprehensive plan and comprehensive plan update to be final unless the City Council of that jurisdiction asserts their authority to be the final decision maker. We're not quite sure where City Council is going to fall on this. In some previous discussions, they sort of signaled that they would. In other, including a meeting, I think a recent meeting which Council Liaison Meadows said, no, I don't think that we're going to do that. So we're not really sure until we get to that meeting
They don't
how
think
the
they're
City
going to do
Council's
what?
going to.
Sorry.
Sorry?
Meadows says he doesn't think he's going to do what?
That the council will assert their authority as the final decision-making body.
Got it. Yeah.
They can, and they would do so by resolution. If that were the case, then your vote would be a recommendation instead of the final vote of adoption. Then they would see it again at a future meeting, which would likely be August 12th, to adopt the plan. So, all that said, that's why I'm looking for comments tonight. We can make those changes for you to see next time, have the public hearing, and essentially be ready to send to the council after that on the 15th, and then potentially have your adoption vote on the 23rd, or have it be a recommendation depending on what happens on the 15th. So any questions about, I guess, what I've just said, those sort of 2 steps that I'm looking for before we jump into the plan itself?
Commissioner Overbey.
Landon, I have a quick question on the comments that we received. I'm certainly not asking you to go through them. Was there anything in the comments that stood out to you that you thought we had missed in the course of drafting this document?
No, I didn't feel that anything was saying it's missing.
Yes,
there
yes.
was a discussion. I guess there was a couple items that sort of stood out to me. There was one about more specifics to talk about the social equity lens of the plan. It would be worth discussing Lansing and East Lansing's history of redlining and how those practices, even long past, have affected housing patterns and practices, often inequitably, and continue to do so. And I thought that was a pretty good comment. I think that we did enter this process saying we want to look at this through a social equity lens, and I certainly am not. I feel fairly good about how we've come at that, but certainly if there are comments saying we want more, we want to really see that this social equity lens was used, I want to make sure that that comes across clearly, and if it's not, that would be a change I want to see. So I like that. I thought that was a good comment. My only concern, I think, is how do we do that? Adequately do that at this point in the conversation. I think that we can, but it's going to rely on me as staff and my team, sort of essentially introducing kind of guessing at the best, not guessing. I guess we're going to be making these modifications, so it's going to be up to staff to add those, and we have a DEI department that's very competent and can help us with this, and in fact, we're meeting with them already. And so I think I'd be deferring to them. I want to be sort of very careful on how I bring that, because we know that we have social equity blind spots among staff, and we recognize that, and we want to mitigate for that. So I certainly want our document to reflect that priority. I'm slightly wary about it.
Right.
Okay, that's very reasonable.
Thank you, Landon.
Yes, Commissioner Valens?
I really appreciate, Landon, you calling out that comment, because I think as a historian, that comment really resonated with me as well. It's something that I have brought with me in my role on the Comprehensive Plan Committee, but I never, and I'm sort of ashamed to say it, I never thought to say we should have a brief history of social equity practices or lack thereof in East Lansing. I think because this is information that I know, and it's information that other people on our committee discussed, but maybe some residents don't know, right, about redlining in East Lansing. They don't know about sundown town laws. And so it feels right to just have a brief paragraph or page in the comprehensive plan to say, this is the context that we're trying to address now with this plan. And I think I really appreciate your comments that, right, you as city staff maybe don't feel like you have the expertise to be able to write that brief history. I wonder if that's something that we as a committee could help review or draft. I also know that there's professors at Michigan State, right, who specialize in the sort of like fraught racial past of East Lansing, who I'm sure would be delighted to contribute, right, this really important recognition in a city document. I think that is actually a really important piece, to have this sort of like documented in city literature.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I should be clear that I think that we do have the resources. It's just, and our staff is very good. Like I'm no lack of confidence there. Maybe I'm just reflecting on myself, but we do have the resources available and have been reaching out. I just want to make that comment to sort of put it out there that.
Yes, you are all very competent and wonderful human beings. That was not my comment.
I guess I did set you up for that. So thank you so much.
Of course.
The other comments I would say, if I may, are just, I thought they really sort of, they matched what we were already working on with the comprehensive plan. There were some discussions. I thought a couple were somewhat timely about parking and gas stations. And I think that sort of is reflected in the comprehensive plan updates discussion, particularly about climate resilience, and about public health. There had been a comment. I saw a couple comments that were sort of, please add this language, or this language was removed, and that has sort of, I guess, reminded me that there is this perception, I guess, that or I've seen it intermittently, where there's a perception that we're doing a new plan, and I'm said, hey, it's just an update, right? It is still a new plan. It's still adding on, like, it's more timely. It's a refresh, but I guess it's still intended to be an addendum, an update to the 2018 plan. So we're not removing anything from the 2018 plan. We're just adding to it and sort of updating it. And I just want to make that clear. So, for example, like the language about wellhead protection, that was a comment from another planning agency, and we said, yep, it's in there, but we should add some language reflecting that it's still in there, hasn't been taken away. There was, the comments ranged from trails and sidewalks is 3 words to 3 pages about, very well thought through discussions of protected bike lanes and pedestrian improvements. And I would say that we have reflected those to some extent, including with the non-motorized transportation plan. The city has a lot of plans, and technically speaking, they're all sort of part of the comprehensive plan. But the comprehensive plan update and document is meant to be the overview, where you're really just saying, look at these big ideas, the big values, big principles that we're trying to move towards. With that, I'm not sure I have any more specifics, except maybe just a note too that there is a second set of, there's one page that says, these comments were received from a comp plan update meeting on April 4, and it has a note saying this haven't been incorporated, but they have. Those already have been. The 7 pages of comments, those are from the public review comment, and those have not yet been incorporated. The other ones were from a sort of marathon morning meeting that we had of our comp plan, a subset of our comp plan committee. So,
I had a couple quick comments, and then I was going to make a suggestion for tonight's meeting. I noted the form-based code comments in there. There was some comments critical of the form-based code, but didn't provide a lot of rationale as to why. And I think the recommendation that's in the updated comprehensive master plan is pretty general in regards to establishment of a form-based code. So I don't know how thoroughly those should be incorporated. And I know a lot of us spent a lot of time working on the previous form-based codes. Maybe I'm just a little sensitive to the comment criticizing it. Because in my view, it's, vacant parcels or any redevelopment could benefit from it. And I think the comment in here was more so regarding alleyways and access to new buildings being redeveloped. And then the other comment I saw that resonated with me, because I share the same sentiments, is the comments regarding the constant downsizing of the Albert al fresco and how it's a great community asset that seems to year over year dwindle a little bit in size, and thus as a result I think participation as well. So those are two that resonated with me. And then my suggestion for tonight was going to be, the first part of it was essentially what Commissioner Overbey had suggested, just a high level overview of some of the comments that are in here, which I think we've already gone over. And then any additional comments or question for Mr. Bartley would be helpful. And then I would suggest that we utilize the time between now and the next meeting that this should be on the agenda for July 9th to relay any feedback about these new additional comments or the comprehensive plan update as a whole, so that we get an updated version. Maybe if we could get those in, if it's July 9th, maybe if we could get those in by the end of next week to give you enough time to incorporate those. Would that give you enough time?
they would have to be the end of next
By
week.
end of next week?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the end of next week will be when we send the packet for you, to you for the following week
Okay.
of your July 9th meeting.
So that would be my suggestion, is to review this item that's in tonight's agenda packet, provide any comments to city staff by next week. And I'm comfortable putting it on the Planning Commission agenda for the 9th, if that's the will of the commission, and we don't need a vote on it, do we?
I would ask, I guess, maybe even sooner though than the end of next week, just in that.
As soon as possible, but
As
at
soon
the
as
very
possible,
latest by the end of next week.
because we will need to
Yeah.
incorporate the comments, I guess, in time to send it to you to review for the 9th. So
Well-
by Friday.
It's not a short document, Landon. There's
And-
a lot
It's
of-
not a short
I'm
document.
just kidding.
I would say if you were to send us your comments by Wednesday morning,
Okay.
that would be doable.
I was going to say that end of next week is the July 4th holiday. I assume city staff will not
Correct.
be in
And
the
so-
office.
Yeah, so we'll be sending out the packet in the evening on Thursday.
Okay,
But yeah, the city offices are closed on Friday.
okay. I
They're
just
the
wanted-
ones pressing for the 9th. So, yeah, I think as soon as possible, I guess, in short. Okay, is there any additional comments or questions for Mr. Bartley? Is the direction clear from the group?
And I did
Do
hear a
we need
few
a vote?
comments tonight that I think, are those reasonable to incorporate? Like, can I take those as suggestions that we should incorporate? Like, that we should, social equity in particular, comments about that are critical of form-based code, the discussion of the constant downsizing of Albert al fresco. I think we can reflect those comments already, but I just want to make sure that that's kosher by the whole
that's-
commission.
It's my understanding.
Okay.
I think in that case, one of the recurring comments that I saw in the comments was about more pedestrian friendliness, right, more bicycle friendliness. Right, I saw someone mention specifically multiple times, folks mentioned protected bike lanes. Folks mentioned, I liked the phrasing, reclaiming Grand River as a more pedestrian-friendly street. Right, I understand that there's questions between, right, who has jurisdiction over that street, but I really appreciate that comment as someone who lives close by. And then someone very specifically mentioned incorporating complete streets or acknowledging complete streets in all future renovations of major roads, which I agree with as well. And I think the pedestrian and bike friendliness, right, that's a big topic that came up at our special meeting in regards to the Meyer gas station as well. And so I think this is something that not only the people who left comments, right, wanted to see, but it's something that has come up in our discussions here very recently as well. So,
Commissioner Overbey?
Just a quick comment, and I want to direct this at Landon as we barrel down to the end of this process. Landon, you and your staff have put significant time and effort and energy into this, and it's going to be a tremendous document for many reasons, but in large part because of you and your staff. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Seeing no additional comments, we don't need to vote on putting it on the July agenda, do we? We can just verbally
No, not
agree
the
to-
July agenda. I
Okay.
would appreciate if you are inclined to set a public hearing date, though, that would be a formal motion.
Okay.
Also, for what it's worth, I mentioned July 23rd. If you would like more time, I'm not, I always adopt an aggressive timeline
No,
because I like to
you
get
know-
things done, but we could also wait if you'd like more time to discuss, to consider the comments. I mean,
In all actuality, in my opinion, maybe the commission will differ, but this has been a document that's been deliberated over months and months. And there's
Yes.
been several opportunities to review it, so my review will be just the new round of comments and,
Yes.
providing a short summary of what I think is maybe a good idea to add or expand upon. Okay, so we need to make a motion to set a public hearing for July 9th, is that the date?
July 23rd.
July 23rd,
Second-
so-
Is my preferred
second
date.
meeting in July, yeah.
So to be on the planning commission on the 9th?
We'd bring it back for you on the 9th to review essentially
Okay, and then we'd
any
set-
changes we made
Okay.
between tonight and then. And then we'd look for a public hearing at the following meeting.
Okay, is there a sample motion in the packet?
there is, and I'm going to read
Oh,
it.
yes, all right.
I move to schedule a public hearing by the Planning Commission for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, to consider an update to the City of East Lansing's comprehensive plan.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Denault, seconded by Commissioner Putz. Any discussion? You've done a lot of that already. All right, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That is now on the, public hearing is now scheduled for, what's the date, July
23rd.
23rd. I should have wrote that down. Great, okay, that takes us on to, unless there's any additional questions or direction for city staff on this. Seeing none, it takes us, since there's no new business, on to item number 9, commissioner concerns. Are there any commissioner concerns? Mr. Bartley, what is the next planning commission meeting that will be meeting at 6:30? Is it the first one in August?
The first one in August would be, I don't have the calendar in front of me right now.
Okay.
I believe August 13th.
So July's are 7, and we can go to the new schedule in August.
Great.
Correct.
Okay.
August 13th.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Overbey. Oh, who got it?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sobolewski. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned at 8:20 PM.